Well, hey there, it's me, Big Ugly Jim. Another one of the things that has been brewing around in my brain. I want to talk soon-ish about Palestine, but I don't want to talk about Palestine. I want to talk about how Palestine mirrors what the situation with Indigenous people here is. I think that's an interesting conversation, but it's also not a conversation I'm able to do justice to. So I'm hoping that, and I'm saying this to sort of put myself on the spot to make sure that people are hearing me say this. So I can't be like, oh, I never said that. My hope is that I can engage with some of my friends who are Indigenous or Indigenous, and we can explore some of this together. And I think it would involve exploring it offline, having conversations, doing a bunch of research, and then coming up with a larger conversation to be had, and that conversation involving those people and less so me, because yeah, my job in this is the colonizer. So I don't have a lot to bring to the table on this one, but I think it's a fascinating concept. And if you think about things like for parallels, the evictions in Palestine. So an Israeli can literally walk into your house and sit down and be like, "This is my house now." That's not okay. That's also, there was a little letter that was sent to I think it was Sutina, that said, "Hey, guess what? We're building a ring road, and you're just gonna fucking deal with that." And that letter went over like a sack of bricks. And I don't know how that guy fared, but I hope whoever wrote that letter got the fucking kicked out. And that whole relationship was genuinely stressed by that. And I think it was Nenshi coming in and saying, "Hey, here's a different letter, one that actually engages with you and says, we would like to do this. How can we work together? We are suggesting that, here is a parcel. I think it was a parcel of land, more so than the land we're asking you to allow us." And there was an actual conversation, and now we have a ring road. But that colonizer mentality of, hey, well, we need this space and you're on it. So I think that's an interesting parallel for sure. Let's see now. Are there parallels between apartheid in South Africa and in Israel today? I would bet. I'm not an expert on either. Ultimately, certainly there's definitely parallels. It's a question of how deep they go, and I can't speak to that. I would imagine so. My 2 cents is I'd be much more interested in using the exercise as a way to educate on the current state of where I live. I know that apartheid was actually, hot take, pretty shitty. But apartheid also is something that when I was a kid, that was when apartheid was ending. Nelson Mandela and was it Botha, Prime Minister Botha. So I remember that sort of happening, but it is early enough that I only knew apartheid bad, situation bad. Now it's good because no more apartheid, and we dropped the conversation at that point. So I'm by no means an expert on apartheid, but yeah, I think it's more interesting to me to look for those parallels with my immediate vicinity and how we've been treating Indigenous people. Lala needs to be a part of this. She's so torn. She has family there. Yes, I would love to. I'm assuming we mean La Corazon. And obviously, she's allowed to be in anything I do. I could be doing a whole speech about how white people are the coolest people on earth and that's the world. And she's in on that because she's just, everything she says is interesting and worthwhile. I would never have a conversation about how white people are the best people in the world. Just clarifying. I always seem to wind up asking the same question when I read about either situation. I think that we do that because apartheid was recent and despicable and heavily publicized as such. So it's an easy correlation to draw. I think the easy part of it is what sort of turns me off of it because, it's one more voice going, Israel bad, Palestine good, which I don't think is 100% accurate. I think, And I'm not taking there's bad actors on both sides. I mean, Israel bad, Palestine more good, but you really can't compare when you have two sides and one of them is like, well, a kid threw stones at us, so we actually like dropped missiles on your town, and the other side responds by like we strapped grenades into strings and attached them to balloons and flew them. Like, I think I see a difference, a very important difference between those two modalities of warfare, and there's a certain amount of bad can be associated based on the amount of damage, and I'm not looking at the balloon grenades. You good? Mm-hmm. Okay. I just making sure you weren't looking for my attention because I'm not giving it to you because you're my child and I want you to be born sullen and angry. Yeah, go for it. Where was it? They thought they could do that takeover thing that municipalities can legally do, except reserve land is federal land. That guy was an idiot. Oh, 100%. 100%. And I think this is a fascinating thing because I didn't know about the real fucking snarky nature of that initial letter. And all I knew was when I saw the reaction in newspapers was like, these goddamn indigenous are gonna try and steal our, they're gonna put up tolls and they're gonna, armed march. I was like, that's not fucking right. But clearly there's some anger here, so I don't understand it. But these right-wing takes are right-wing takes, and I saw them fucking coming. So it was interesting after the fact to find out that, in fact, that was exactly the case, was that this was a bullshit argument that was all predicated on a situation where someone very ignorantly approached people who had a thing he wanted, and instead of saying, hey, let's work together, was like, you're going to give me what I want, or I'm going to be upset. Well, that guy sucked. Both Netanyahu and both have common views. Netanyahu is... So this is the thing, is I'm not a foreign policy guy. I know that more and more, particularly from watching like Dylan Burns TV on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. Dylan Burns he's a young guy, but he is very, very interested in and very knowledgeable about that thing I just said. Shit, my brain just emptied. Foreign policy. And he has some great content talking about Israel and Gaza and all sorts of stuff because he's coming from a much more knowledgeable place. I wouldn't want to be looking at like Netanyahu and saying, well, this is how, this is clearly, this is the way that Israel's... I don't have that information. I don't have that background requisite knowledge. So that would be a mistake for me. Okay, so I'm just going to paste this into chat. This is Dylan Burns TV. If you're interested in more about Israel and things like that, definitely recommend. He has a lot of great stuff. He also hosts the Hippy Dippy Championship, Hippy Dippy Roundtable, all sorts of debate groups. He's a debate bro. That is where I see a lot of obnoxious right-wing dudes talking to. So, fair warning, there will be annoying people on his channel, but it's also fun to make fun of them. So I don't want to get into like looking at Netanyahu and both neither one I particularly know a whole great deal about, and I know that both are dinks. Both at least went away. I was watching a doc about white nationalists who are afraid of the Great Uprising when they have to pay with their lives for the wrongs done during apartheid. I'm assuming that's in South Africa. Is that like an ongoing thing? Because I felt like that was a thing that when apartheid ended, there was a huge fear among whites that like, oh shit, now they're going to treat us like we did them. That's not fair. To which, you kind of have to laugh. Like, if that had happened, if they had been treated badly, I would have been totally not okay with that. But also, you kind of, you kick a hornet's nest long enough, you're going to get stung. Um, Hamas isn't a group of nice people either. Totally agree. Hamas is, in a lot of ways, quite awful. I believe Hamas has a stance that they're, one of their principles, and I could be wrong about this, but I think one of their principles is the eradication of Jewish people worldwide. Not a big supporter of that. And I'm not also one of those people who will play the game and be like, well, the thing about it is you have to understand they're coming from a different place of, no, that's not anti-Semitism, bad. But I will, so I'm not throwing my hat with the fine people in Hamas. I'm just saying that there's no good guys, there's no bad guys, there's no neutral guys. People are trying to survive. Oh yeah, this group is still heavily active and run drills to relocate for safe grounds, etc. Full military style practices with fake hostage scenarios in the works. I'm gonna just say though, like, that Hamas, again, I'm not defending Hamas. I'll never defend Hamas, but Israel kind of like does that stuff where they do require the people living in the occupied territories to, you know, this isn't an impractical skill. If I lived in the occupied territories, it could be fucking Saddam Hussein and Satan going, hey, we'll teach you how to fire a gun. I'd be like, yes, I want to learn how to fire a gun so I can protect my motherfucking self. I don't care about your philosophy. I care about not having a bullet in me. I was watching a thing where they were talking about, and this is like official from the IDF or whatever group, that they're very proud of the fact that they give notice. I think it was a Trevor Noah thing that he was talking about, and he was like, "Yeah, so what's the notice?" And then he, plays the clip, and they're like, "We drop a small mortar on the house, a house in the neighborhood or a building in the neighborhood, as a warning that everyone needs to get out and evacuate, and they've got 3 minutes to evacuate before we fully shell the fuck out of the space." To which I can say the following things. Number one, oh, a mortar. What a fine way. If only there was a better way to contact people, like, I don't know, text. Number two, so what about the people whose house you just shot? Did they get a warning? No. Number three, 3 minutes. What if I'm shitting? Like, literally, what if I'm doing any of a number of things that I could be doing where suddenly 3 minutes ain't gonna be enough time to get out of the fucking room? I'm not gonna defend either side, and I will definitely say both sides are garbage. But when you're comparing the missile system, missile detection system, and all the shit that the Israelis have, versus largely sticks and grenades attached to balloons, I know who I think is the underdog in the conversation, and I know who has, with the benefit of superior might, has a certain amount of responsibility to be fucking reasonable. Sorry, my reference are in relation to the South Africa. Oh, okay, sorry. But yeah, what Israel is going through some intense things to live close in that hotspot. I watched some stuff on that as well, trying to learn more. I knew a girl when I was in early in my career. She was a Lebanese girl and had gone back to Lebanon to visit family. She grew up here, and Israelis were shelling the town that they were in when she was there, and the whole family just basically shells started going off, and they're like, oh, okay, and they hopped under the table, waited out, and someone noticed that she was freaked right out, and they're like, what's wrong? And she's like, what's happening? They're like, oh, they're shelling the city. Don't worry, we're good. They're not shelling our area. You can tell just by hearing it. We're fine. That's not a normal experience for someone. I can tell you, maybe I had a sheltered life, but no one has ever shelled anything I've lived in, or even near anything I've lived in. I've shelled pistachios, peanuts, never buildings. So my reaction would be the same. I'd be the dumb idiot fucking 8 foot tall white guy standing there going, "What's going on?" Just like a giant target with like, bombs are going off all around me, and I'm like, I should do something. And my hands higher. Like, fuck, man. Like this is not a world I understand, and I feel like it's a super complicated thing with a whole lot of history, and I don't want to go into who's right and who's wrong because I don't know, and I probably will never know. I think it's an interesting conversation to have to draw parallels with the way that we're behaving, because it's real easy to point out that Hamas or whoever is totally bad and totally in the wrong, or the Israelis are totally bad and totally in the wrong, without having that introspective moment and saying, look what we're doing, look how we're treating people. And I think that's fucking an important conversation that we're not having. So that's where that's coming from. Can we just give them the tape and run it down the center and they don't cross the line? I mean, that's kind of not far away from what happens, but the problem is that they keep moving the tape. One of the issues I've read is that where that line could go, both sides want to claim that, and there doesn't seem to be common ground anywhere. My opinion, of course, but yeah, it's crazy. One of the troubles with the Middle East, and again, not a foreign affairs guy, love you, but that wasn't Tourette's. I was saying goodbye to my son. I'm not a foreign affairs guy, but you have a huge amount of history in the entire Middle East region, going back thousands of years for a bunch of different distinct cultures. And, so Jerusalem is the holy city of the Christians, but it's not like they're the only ones that have claim to it. All of those spaces have historical, old and new references. Like almost like the day after the end of World War II, Israel was under attack, and they, won that war and took some of the occupied territories that are from that. Again, not an expert on the situation, but that, this is a long history, and I don't know it. I don't know it well enough to speak to it, but I can certainly look at the things that we're seeing, like evictions, and we can correlate that with how we have treated Indigenous people here. And we can, so that's a conversation that I want to have. But I want to have it in a way that's smarter than just me as a honky going, let me tell you about the Indigenous experience. I know because I knew a Native person, so pretty much makes me Native. Yes, I was being facetious. It's very complicated. I understand. Oh, yeah, sorry. It's quite likely that, I just didn't pick up on facetious because I'm dumb. I love that you use facetious. One of my favorite words, actually. Oh, it's a great word. I think one of my favorite words is, it's a word that children would use to describe a body part. Booby. Every time I think of people using the word booby, if they're not 12, they're super gross. They like to see your booby. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all the support. If you want to support me directly, you can like, subscribe, or comment, or follow whatever doohickeys are available to you at this particular moment. I also have a Patreon if you want to support me via that. I have a whopping 2 patrons. One of them is my good friend, Mr. Shithead Dave Anderson, who gets the super special I love you, thank you for the videos. And the other one is my friend Kelvin, who just gets a regular thank you. It's not my fault. That's how the tiers work, which is actually exactly my fault. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time. And I hope whatever you do, I hope our paths cross again. And I hope you have a great day.